While getting dinner ready for my wife's entire family, I stepped into the garage to grab a couple of extra chairs. That is when I overheard her brother say, "I still cannot believe you married this loser. Dad was right. You need to divorce him before you have kids and end up stuck for good." Her response hit me like a freight train. "Already working on it," she said. "My lawyer says we can take half his business too." I stood there for a second, absorbing the betrayal, then grabbed the chairs, walked back inside, and played the part of the perfect host, smiling like nothing had happened. 3 days later, my phone exploded with 47 desperate messages. Looking back, something had felt off about Isabel in the week leading up to her family dinner. But it was not the usual kind of off, like when she was swamped at work or irritated that I had left my boots in the hallway again. No, this was different. She kept glancing at her phone when she thought I was not paying attention, quickly switching tabs on her laptop anytime I walked by, and taking phone calls in another room. A little about me: I am Jack, 36 years old. I built my construction business from the ground up after dropping out of community college. Started with nothing but an old beat-up truck and a stubborn work ethic. Now, I have 5 crews running projects all over the county. It is not some huge empire, but it pays well and keeps the lights on. Isabel, my wife, is 30. We have been married for 7 years. I supported her all through law school, covered her tuition, rent, every single bill, while also building my business from scratch. Her family never really approved of me. They are upper middle class, the kind of people who think hard work is something you delegate. Her dad, Samuel, is a financial advisor, and her mom, Pamela, is in real estate. Then there is her brother, Thomas, who thinks that just because he has a business degree, he is some kind of genius. I always knew they looked down on me, thought Isabel could have done better. The comments were never direct, but they were there, jabs about my little business, constant hints about when I was going back to school. But Isabel always defended me. Or at least, I thought she did. Last Saturday was our annual spring dinner, a tradition Isabel insisted on, her chance to show off our home to her family. I spent the entire morning getting the place ready. Power washed the deck, tidied up the yard, helped with the cooking. Everything had to be just right. I had been up since 6, making sure the smoker was running perfectly for the brisket. I had even laid off drinking the whole week to be sharp for the night. Isabel was more on edge than usual, snapping over little things, but I chalked it up to the usual stress of hosting. By 4 o'clock, her family started arriving, her parents, Thomas and his wife, and her younger sister, Lily, who was still in grad school. Her mom immediately started critiquing the way I had arranged the living room furniture. Her dad, on the other hand, wasted no time asking how my business was doing, using that condescending tone that made it clear he was waiting for me to admit failure. By 6, dinner was ready. I set the dining table with our best plates, the wedding gifts that we hardly ever used, only to realize we were short 2 chairs. So I stepped out to grab a couple from the garage. That is when I heard them. Just around the corner of the house, by the azaleas, Isabel and Thomas were sharing a cigarette, a surprise, since she supposedly quit 3 years ago. I was about to call out to them when I heard my name. Instinctively, I stopped. Thomas was saying he still could not believe she married me and that their dad was right. She needed to get out before she had kids and got stuck forever. Then Isabel spoke, and her words felt like a sledgehammer straight to the chest. "Already working on it," she said casually. "My lawyer says we can take half his business too." I stood frozen, numb, as they laughed, as if destroying my life was just another casual conversation. Then they kept talking, something about how Nolan would be a much better fit for her. How she had wasted her prime years on me while I was playing construction. Have you ever had a moment where your entire world shifts in an instant? 7 years of marriage, all the late nights I stayed up quizzing her for exams, the vacations we never took because she needed expensive law textbooks, the extra jobs I picked up just to help pay off her student loans. It all suddenly looked different in the brutal light of what I had just overheard. But I did not react. I did not storm over and confront them. Something inside me just shut down. I took a step back, grabbed the chairs, forced myself to take 3 slow breaths, and then put on the most convincing fake smile of my life. Walking back inside, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. On the outside, I looked completely normal. On the inside, a nuclear wasteland. That dinner was a surreal blur. I poured wine, carved a brisket, laughed at Samuel's terrible jokes, all while sitting across from my wife, this woman who had just torn my world apart like it was nothing. I studied her, searching for any trace of the person I had married. Had she always looked at me with that barely hidden disdain? Or was I only seeing it now? When her mom complimented the food and asked for my secret to getting the brisket so tender, I almost lost it. 7 years of these family dinners, and now she decides I might have something worth knowing? I explained the dry aging process in a calm, mechanical voice while my mind screamed. At one point, I caught Lily looking at me. Not in the usual way. It was like she was trying to figure something out. Out of everyone in that family, she had always been the only decent one. I could not help but wonder, did Lily know? Had she figured it out? After dessert, Thomas raised his glass for a toast, grinning like he had already won. To family and future changes, he said, eyes locked on Isabel with that insufferable smirk. I clinked my glass with his, playing along, all the while picturing how satisfying it would be to snap that crystal stemware and drive it straight through his smug face. When they finally left around 11, Isabel started tidying up, humming to herself like she had not just detonated our entire life. Humming. Like everything was fine. I told her I would finish the dishes and that she should go get some rest. She kissed my cheek, smiled, and told me I was such a good husband. The sheer audacity of it nearly made me sick. Once she was asleep, I went straight to her laptop. Password protected. That was new. But I knew her habits. She always used the same general pattern for most accounts. Third attempt, and I was in. The emails to her lawyer went back 3 months. The plan was simple: secure a partnership at her firm, using my income to bolster her financial standing, then drop the divorce papers once she had what she needed. There were spreadsheets detailing every dollar tied to my business, every joint account, even a damn timeline for when she would file. And there it was, a record of small transfers she had been making for months, always just under the threshold that would trigger a bank notification. Smart. Lawyer smart. I pulled up our joint savings. $40,000 gone. That was the money I had been putting aside to expand the business. Our future. Then I found the texts. Someone saved as D. Nolan was not just a hypothetical upgrade. She had already been taking him for a test drive. The messages went back 9 months. 9 months. I did not sleep that night. Or the next. Monday morning, I called in sick, first time in 3 years, and met with a divorce attorney while Isabel was at work. A buddy recommended a guy named Ben. I sat across from him in his office, laid everything out, showed him the screenshots. Ben did not sugarcoat it. Because my business had grown substantially during our marriage, she could be entitled to half of it. Half. Even though she never contributed a dime. Even though I built it from nothing while supporting her through school. When he told me the potential settlement figure, I damn near blacked out. Everything I had worked for. Everything I had sacrificed. About to be carved up and handed to the woman who had spent months plotting to gut me. I remember looking at Ben and asking, "So what?" I just bend over and take it. He started talking about amicable settlements, minimizing damages, legal talk. But I was not listening anymore. Something inside me shifted. That night, Isabel came home acting like the doting wife. She brought soup, asked if I was feeling any better, even put on that concerned expression she thought looked genuine. I played my part, nodding along. Told her I was just tired, probably coming down with something. She suggested I see a doctor. She deserved an Oscar. I smiled, thanked her for caring, even told her I loved her. She said it back, effortlessly, like it meant nothing. Just another lie slipping off her tongue while she planned to take me for everything I had. As we sat on the couch, she scrolled through Instagram, stopping to like a photo of us from last Christmas that Lily had posted. The caption? #couplegoals. I nearly laughed out loud. It was like living with a stranger wearing my wife's face. Every gesture, every word, it all felt calculated. Had she always been like this? Had I been blind for 7 years? Or had she changed? Does it even matter? Here's the thing. I have never been the kind of man to hold grudges. When contractors try to screw me over, I cut ties and move on. When clients fall behind on payments, I work with them. But this was different. This was not business. This was my life. That second night, as I lay awake watching her sleep, probably dreaming about spending my money with Nolan, something inside me solidified. A kind of clarity I had never felt before. See, Isabel and her family always underestimated me. They saw the calloused hands, the lack of a degree, and assumed I was simple. What they never understood is that building something from nothing takes intelligence, strategy, patience. So the next morning, I started making calls. First to my bank, then to my business partner, then to a few key clients. By noon, I had the beginning of a plan. By dinner, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Isabel wants war? Fine. But she is bringing a butter knife to a chainsaw fight. This is not about money anymore. This is about making sure she and her entire family understand exactly who they chose to screw over. The loser they looked down on for 7 years is about to give them a masterclass in consequences. So here I am, 3 days after that dinner, finalizing my blueprint for demolition. And just like any good construction project, you have to lay the groundwork before you build. Tomorrow, everything changes. Isabel thinks she has got it all locked down, that she is in control. She has no idea what is coming. Neither does her family. And Nolan, whoever the hell he is, sure as hell does not either. For 7 years, I supported her dreams, sacrificed for them. Now, I get to sit back and watch as hers go up in flames. Update. First off, I appreciate all the support on my last post. Did not expect that kind of response. And for those wondering if I have calmed down, if I am thinking more rationally now, nope. Still pissed. Still moving forward. Just more methodically now. The morning after my last post, Isabel got ready for work like it was just another day. She kissed me goodbye, reminded me to call the plumber about the leaky faucet in the guest bathroom, even asked if I could swing by and pick up her dry cleaning. The sheer normalcy of it was almost surreal, like watching someone sleepwalk straight into a minefield they planted themselves. As soon as her car pulled out of the driveway, I got to work, securing the business. First order of business, my actual business. I called my accountant for an emergency meeting. No way was I handling this over the phone or anywhere near the office where employees might overhear. Now here's the thing. When you are building a business from the ground up while also supporting someone else's ambitions, sometimes things are not documented as neatly as they should be. You make compromises. Cut a few corners on paperwork because you are working 14-hour days just to keep everything afloat. Isabel knew this. She had even helped file some of our early taxes when we could not afford a proper accountant. At the coffee shop, my accountant, let's call him Frank, looked like he had not slept in days. Then he dropped the bombshell. Turns out Isabel had already contacted him, claimed she was helping me prepare for an investor meeting, and had some innocent questions about business valuation and ownership documentation. Frank, not realizing what was happening, gave her a surface-level rundown but felt uneasy enough to flag it. When I told him the real story, the color drained from his face. "James, I need to show you something," he said, pulling out his tablet. What he showed me was worse than I imagined. She had been more than just planning a divorce. She had been setting up a narrative. A carefully curated paper trail designed to make it look like I was mishandling business funds. Tiny discrepancies in transaction dates. Money moved between accounts at odd intervals. Invoices with inconsistent numbering. Nothing illegal. She was too smart for that. But it was enough to raise red flags in court. Enough to justify a forensic accountant digging through my records for months, costing me thousands, finding nothing but still dragging everything out. We spent 3 hours cleaning up the mess, documenting every transaction properly, accelerating payments to suppliers, paying off equipment loans early, and, most importantly, ensuring there was no trace of Isabel's involvement in the business. While we worked, I got a text from Lily, Isabel's sister. That was unusual. We had always been friendly, but we rarely texted directly. She wanted to meet for coffee. Said it was important. I agreed to Saturday morning, wondering what the hell she had to say. Next stop, the bank. Something Isabel's brother had said at that dinner had been nagging at me. A casual remark about their parents being ready to help her when the time comes. I had a bad feeling. At the bank, I spoke with our advisor and confirmed exactly what I suspected. 2 weeks ago, Isabel had applied for a home equity line of credit against our house. Our house. The one primarily in my name because I made the down payment with pre-marriage savings. The one I renovated myself, increasing its value by nearly $100,000. I was still listed as a required signatory, but the paperwork was in motion. Give it another week, and she would have had access to $200,000 in cash, money I would have been partially responsible for repaying. The bank advisor looked uncomfortable when I explained I had no knowledge of this. After showing my identification and marriage certificate, I shut it down. Application canceled. Then I moved half of our joint savings into my personal account, exactly the amount I had contributed. Is that petty? Maybe. But it is a hell of a lot less than what she was planning to take. Crossing a line. When I got home, I did something I am not exactly proud of. But desperate times and all that. I installed tiny recording devices in the living room and bedroom. Completely legal in our state, since it is my house too. Ethical? Not so much. I also set up a discreet camera in our home office, angled toward her desk. Then I leashed up the dog and went for a walk around the neighborhood like it was just another Tuesday. Waved to the neighbors. Tossed a ball for the Jenkins kid. Picked up some dog crap with a plastic bag. All while mentally dismantling my marriage piece by piece. That night over dinner, Isabel seemed distracted, checking her phone constantly. When I asked about her day, she gave vague answers. Then her phone buzzed again, and I caught a glimpse of the name on the screen. Nolan. Who's Nolan? I asked it casually, reaching for more pasta like I barely cared. Just another passing question over dinner. Her fork hesitated, pausing midair for half a second. Barely noticeable. Unless you have spent 7 years studying someone's every little tell. Oh, new client at the firm, she said, recovering quickly. Time-sensitive case. Then she flipped her phone face down on the table. That tiny moment of hesitation told me everything. Must be important if he is texting you during dinner, I said, keeping my voice light. Just a relaxed husband making conversation. She gave me a tight little smile. You know how it is. Some people do not respect boundaries. The irony almost made me choke on my garlic bread. After dinner, she claimed she had work to finish and disappeared into the home office. I stayed behind, making a little extra noise in the kitchen, just enough to sound convincingly occupied. Then, silent as a shadow, I moved to the hallway. She had left the office door slightly ajar. Her voice filtered through. Low. Intimate. Not her professional tone. Not her family tone. Her bedroom voice. You cannot just call whenever you want, she murmured. A pause. Then, softer. No, he does not suspect anything. Just be patient. Yes. I miss you too. Each word hammered another nail into whatever was left of my feelings for her. The rage threatened to boil over. I wanted to push open that door, to end this farce on the spot. To see the look on her face when she realized she was caught. But that would ruin everything. So instead, I turned on my heel and walked back to the kitchen. Turned on the faucet. Pretended to wash dishes while cold, methodical plans formed in my head. Timing is everything. Wednesday morning, I accidentally left some printed divorce papers on my nightstand. Nothing filled out. Just the standard forms from the county website. When I came back from my shower, they had been moved slightly. She had seen them, but she did not say a word. Neither did I. At work, I started laying my groundwork. Called in some favors, not for money, but for information. Turns out Nolan was not just some random guy. He was tight with Thomas, Isabel's brother. They had gone to college together. Same social circle, same privileged background. The kind of guy her parents always wanted for her. And here's where it got real interesting. Nolan had been around for years. He had been at family birthday parties, ski trips, even a damn cruise I had to skip because I was busy launching my business. The same business that, ironically, gave Isabel the life she was so eager to burn down. Through a mutual connection, I found out something else. Isabel and Nolan had history. They had dated briefly in college, before I came into the picture. This was not just an affair. This was a long game. The price tag on our marriage. While I was piecing all this together, I started crunching numbers. Every dollar I had spent supporting Isabel through law school, I tracked it down. Tuition. Books. Rent. The laptop I bought her for graduation. The bar exam prep course. The interview suits. The countless late-night Ubers home because I did not want her riding public transit alone. Final total, $177,342. And that did not even include the interest I could have earned if I had invested that money in my business instead. That night, for the first time in months, Isabel took the initiative in bed. I nearly laughed. The timing was perfect. Was this another part of her plan? Keep me distracted, keep me compliant, while she arranged my financial execution behind my back. I went along with it. Played my part. Felt absolutely nothing. Afterward, while she slept beside me, I lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling fan, watching the blades spin. One thought kept circling, over and over. How long had our marriage been a lie? Was I always just a stepping stone? Thursday morning, I met Lily for coffee. When Lily arrived, she looked uneasy. She has always been the odd one out in that family. More genuine, less obsessed with status. She ordered something complicated, picked at a muffin, made small talk. Then, finally, she took a deep breath. And what she told me confirmed everything. She had known about Isabel and Nolan for months. She had caught them at their parents' lake house during a family weekend I missed because I was handling an emergency at a job site. When she confronted Isabel, my wife swore up and down that it was just a one-time mistake. But we both knew better. The long game. But it was never just a one-time mistake. Lily told me the rest. How, after another family dinner I had missed, Isabel got a little too drunk and a little too honest. Told her everything. The plan had been in motion for a while. Stay with me until she made partner, then upgrade to Nolan, taking half my assets as her golden parachute. Lily was telling me now because she could not stomach it anymore. She had always liked me, always thought I was good for her sister. Never understood why her family never gave me a fair chance. I let her talk, carefully hiding the fact that I already knew most of it. I thanked her for her honesty, asked her to keep this between us. She nodded, looking relieved to unburden herself. As she left, she hugged me, whispering, "I'm sorry." It was the first genuine human connection I had felt in days. Thursday night, I set the next phase in motion. I called Isabel with a fabricated business emergency, told her I needed all hands on deck for a crisis meeting the next evening. A major client threatening to pull out. A potential financial disaster. She hesitated, said she had plans. I pushed harder, let my voice crack just a little, told her I was terrified of losing everything we had built. Played on her guilt. She caved, Agreed to host an emergency family dinner Friday night. Said she would call her parents and Thomas. Perfect. Laying the foundation. Friday morning, I finalized my preparations. The dining room was staged. A folder of printouts strategically placed by my seat. Every piece of evidence loaded onto a tablet, screenshots, recordings, financial records, the whole 9 yards. I even picked up Isabel's favorite dessert from that overpriced bakery across town. A final little touch. At work, I sat down with my business partner. Told him everything. He was shocked. But he was also a friend. One who had seen firsthand what Isabel's law school years had cost me, in more ways than one. When I got home, Isabel was already setting the table, using our good plates again. The symmetry did not escape me. Another family dinner. Same setting. Different show about to unfold. She was jumpy, checking her phone constantly. When I asked if everyone was confirmed, she nodded distractedly. Her parents were bringing wine. Thomas and his wife would be there. I suggested inviting Lily. Isabel blinked in surprise, but agreed, texting her sister while I watched. The full cast was assembled. Perfect. The calm before the storm. As I headed upstairs to shower, Isabel called after me, asking for specifics about the client issue. Said she wanted to prepare her thoughts. I told her I would explain everything at dinner. Better to go through it once, with everyone present. Under the hot water, I rehearsed my words. The exact sequence of revelations. The pacing. The tone. It felt surreal, like prepping for the most twisted client pitch of my life. I dressed with intention, dark jeans, a crisp blue button-down, leather shoes instead of work boots. The outfit Isabel always said made me look the most professional. The costume for my final performance as her devoted husband. Downstairs, I could hear her whispering into the phone. Thanks to the recorder in the living room, I could listen to that conversation later. But I already knew who it was. Already knew what she was saying. Let her have this moment. Let her believe she was still in control. Let her think, for just a little longer, that she was the smartest person in the room. Showtime. The doorbell rang. Isabel jumped, hurriedly ending her call. Her parents arrived first, her father handing me an expensive bottle of wine, shaking my hand with that familiar condescending grip. He asked about my business emergency, with barely concealed satisfaction. Thomas and his wife came next. Then Lily, who avoided my gaze. Everyone was in place. As we moved to the dining room, Isabel touched my arm, her voice laced with concern. Are you okay? For the briefest moment, I almost wavered. Almost wondered if I had built a conspiracy out of coincidences. Then her phone buzzed. Nolan's name flashed on the screen before she quickly silenced it. Any last shred of doubt disappeared. I took my seat at the head of the table. The folder of evidence rested beside my plate. Isabel sat to my right, her father to my left. The symmetry was perfect. The same table where I had first realized her betrayal. Only now, the secrets were mine. As Isabel's mother chatted about wine options, I caught Lily watching me. Her expression was hard to read. Part curiosity, part dread. She knew something was coming. She just had no idea what. I stood up, lifting my glass. The room quieted, all eyes on me, expecting an explanation about the client emergency. I smiled, meeting each gaze, saving Isabel's for last. Before we get to the reason I called this meeting, I said, raising my glass higher, I'd like to propose a toast. To family, to loyalty, and to finally seeing things clearly. Confusion flickered across their faces. They had no idea what was coming next. Neither did Isabel. I had just raised my glass for that toast, watching their confused faces, soaking in the moment. Then I sat back down, took a slow sip of Samuel's expensive wine, and finally spoke. So, about this business emergency. Isabel squeezed my hand, giving me a reassuring look. She thought she was about to save me. She had no idea. It was honestly impressive how far she'd gone with it. I almost had to give her credit for sticking to her story. But I didn't let it distract me. I just kept pulling out my tablet. Something had gone terribly wrong. I was seeing issues that threatened everything I'd worked so hard for, problems that had been developing right under my nose. Samuel leaned forward, a smirk barely hidden on his face. Financial troubles? Cash flow problems? He asked, clearly enjoying himself. I've always said your business model was shaky. Actually, I wasn't paying attention to him. I was connecting my tablet to the TV. The problem isn't my business, I said, keeping my voice steady. It's my marriage. The room went dead quiet. Isabel's hand froze on mine, as if she'd been caught in a lie. James, she whispered. Let me explain something, I said, trying to keep calm. When you're tearing down something, you don't start at the top. You hit the foundation first. Then, I hit play on the recording from our last dinner. Isabel and Thomas's voices filling the room. Thomas, saying she needed to divorce me before she ended up stuck with me forever. And Isabel, replying that she was already working on it, her lawyer saying they could even take half of my business. I watched their faces. Thomas went ashen, like he'd just seen a ghost. Isabel's mother covered her mouth in shock. Samuel's jaw tightened. Lily closed her eyes like she'd already known this was coming, like she'd seen it play out before. But Isabel? She just sat there, frozen, watching everything she'd built fall apart. Then, I pulled up screenshots of her texts with Nolan. I'd carefully edited them, but they still told the story. 9 months, I said quietly. 9 months you've been seeing him while I've been working 60-hour weeks. Did you know about this? I turned to her parents. Or did you just know she was planning on leaving me? Samuel tried to cut in, but I wasn't finished yet. I swiped to my next slide. $177, $342. I said, the amount of money I'd spent putting Isabel through school. This is what I invested in our future. Next, I showed them the documentation of her secret bank account and the canceled home equity loan application. And this is how she planned to thank me. The room was completely still. You could have heard a pin drop. And then, everything happened at once. Samuel shot up from his chair, knocking it back. This is insane. Isabel, we're leaving. Isabel grabbed my arm. James, please, I can explain. Meanwhile, Thomas, being the coward he was, tried to delete the messages under the table. I pointed at him. Those messages you're deleting? I already have them. All the times you helped her plan this. Thomas froze. He glanced at his wife, who was looking at him like she was finally seeing the truth. Isabel switched tactics. It wasn't like that, she said, her voice trembling. I was confused. I wasn't happy. We've been growing apart for years. Growing apart? I repeated, incredulous. While I was paying for your education, I could feel my anger rising. While I was working my ass off to build a future for us. I hadn't meant to lose it, but something inside me snapped. 8 years, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. 8 years I believed in us. And all this time, I was just a stepping stone. Her father jumped in then, trying to deflect the whole thing. Whatever issues you two have, that's between you. But if you think you can intimidate my daughter with this little stunt, you're wrong. We have resources you can't even imagine. I laughed, a bitter sound. Resources? I echoed. You mean like the $20,000 she took from our joint account? Or the hellick she tried to take out on my house? While Samuel ranted about how much they'd done for us, I noticed Isabel texting under the table. That's when I dropped my last bomb. Did Isabel tell you Nolan's married, too? I asked casually. The room froze. Even Samuel stopped talking mid-sentence. Yeah, I said, before anyone could respond. Found that out yesterday. His wife's name is Rachel. Very understanding when I showed her the texts between her husband and my wife. Isabel's face turned white as a ghost. You what? She gasped. We had coffee yesterday. Figured it was only fair she knew. That's when Samuel completely lost it. He grabbed the edge of the dining table, the one I'd built myself, and flipped it over. Food, wine, plates, everything went flying. Isabel screamed. Her mother gasped in shock. Thomas jumped back like a deer caught in headlights. I just sat there, strangely calm, watching 7 years of pretending come crashing down. Lily was the only one who moved to help clean up. Our eyes met across the wreckage, and she gave me a small nod, whether of respect or understanding, I couldn't tell. Samuel pointed at me, his fingers trembling. You think you've won? He spat. You're nothing. You build things with your hands because you couldn't make it in college. My daughter made a mistake slumming it with you, but we'll fix that. I stood up slowly, looking him dead in the eye. I may work with my hands, Samuel, but at least I've built something real. What have you built besides a family of liars? Samuel yelled as he lunged at me, actually trying to throw a punch. Thomas, barely managing to restrain him, grabbed him by the arms, holding him back as Samuel shouted about lawyers and revenge. Meanwhile, Isabel kept pleading with me. James, please. Let's talk in private. This isn't how I wanted it to be. I couldn't help but scoff. How you wanted it? I repeated, shaking my head in disbelief. You wanted to divorce me? To take half of everything I've worked for, while sleeping with someone else? Her face dropped, but she didn't answer. There's nothing left to talk about, I said, turning and opening the front door. I think you should all leave now. Thomas pulled Samuel out, but Lily lingered at the door. She looked at me for a moment, then softly said, I'm sorry. I always thought you deserved better. And just like that, it was only Isabel and me left, standing in the wreckage of what used to be our home. She looked at me, her voice small and defeated. Where are you going to go? I already have a hotel room, I replied. I'll come back for my things tomorrow when you're at work. Her face twisted in something like regret. You planned all of this, didn't you? I learned from the best, I said, grabbing the overnight bag I'd already packed. As I walked out the door, she called after me, her voice tinged with desperation. "You'll regret this." But I didn't respond. Some foundations are just too broken to rebuild on. That night at the hotel, I slept better than I had in months. The next day, I went back while she was at work. I packed the things that really mattered: clothes, tools, family photos, and my dog's stuff, and left my key on the counter. I'd already rented a small apartment near my workshop. I wasn't hiding. I just needed space. I called my employees and let them know I'd be working remotely for a while, dealing with personal matters. For 2 full days, I stayed off social media, ignored emails, and focused on settling into my new place. The dog adjusted quickly. Animals always seem to know when something's off. On the 3rd morning, I turned my phone back on. It buzzed almost immediately. I had 60 WhatsApp messages from Isabel, ranging from rage to pleading. The first ones were all in caps, full of fury. "How dare you embarrass me like that? And you've ruined everything." Then the tone changed. "James, please call me. We need to talk. I know I made a mistake. We can work through this." By message 30, she was bargaining. "I'll go to therapy. I'll cut off my family. Just please talk to me." Message 60 was short and simple. "I'm sorry." The last 2 came through at 3:50 a.m. I told Nolan everything. About the money, about the divorce plans. He says we should still be together. And then he called to break things off. He's trying to save his marriage with Rachel. I have nobody now. I read them all without responding. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel victorious. I felt empty, like finishing a project no one will ever appreciate. As I scrolled, another message popped up. "James, I know you've read these. Please, just tell me what you want. Money? The house? I'll sign whatever you want." After everything, she still didn't get it. This wasn't about money. It was about betrayal. Years wasted. A future stolen. I finally responded, my fingers heavy with the weight of it all. "I've already sent the divorce papers to your office. All I want is for this to be over quickly." Her reply came almost instantly. "Can we meet? Please? Just to talk." Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was Ben, my lawyer. "Rachel, Nolan's wife, reached out to me," he said. "After you showed her the evidence, she did some digging of her own. Turns out Nolan's been pulling similar stunts with other women. She wants to compare notes for the divorce proceedings." As Ben spoke, I looked around my empty apartment. There was a mattress on the floor, boxes half unpacked, and my dog lying in the corner, watching me with those sad, understanding eyes. "I'll be in touch soon," Ben said, and we ended the call. I leaned back against the wall, exhausted. In that moment, I realized something. I was free. Not from the past, but from the lies that had held me down. The pieces of the life I thought I knew were scattered, but I was finally starting to rebuild, and this time, I was doing it for me.